Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us.
WLBT's First Alert Weather Team is keeping you up to date with the latest information. From your morning commute to your afternoon drive, we're on your side, streaming on your favorite devices. WLBT First Alert Weather Plus.
WLBT's First Alert Weather Team is committed to your safety with 6 hours of continuous team coverage.
This is a relentless storm, Dave.
We're fortunate we all made it out alive.
And our network of skycams across the state alerting you to danger, bringing you live footage of tornadoes as they touch down in Wathau County.
Look at this, Chase. Guys, look at that.
This is ground zero almost. I mean, this is really hard to stomach, like I said.
We take our commitment to being on your side seriously, and together, we're Mississippi Strong.
Weekdays, stream First Alert Weather Plus.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us.
WLBT's First Alert Weather Team is keeping you up to date with the latest information. From your morning commute to your afternoon drive, we're on your side, streaming on your favorite devices. WLBT First Alert Weather Plus.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. We've made it to the middle of the week, but I'm sure you're all more so concerned, or made it to the middle of the week, I should say. I'm sure you're more concerned with what we're expecting going into this weekend, as we've got that First Alert Weather Day in place. And we'll talk more about that. I just wanted to show you what's going on. If you're just getting ready to head out the door, satellite and radar showing some rain moving in, and we're going to be dealing with off and on rain chances over these next couple of days, but we're going to stay pretty seasonal. Temperatures in the upper 50s, low 60s today and tomorrow. Start off relatively mild for your Friday, but Friday night is going to be that transition period where we see that rain transitioning to that wintry precipitation that includes the potential for sleet, freezing rain, and the further north you go, maybe even some snow. But that's why we've issued that First Alert Weather Day going into this weekend. Just want to give you some perspective. We don't have any winter weather alerts right now, but quite a big portion of the South is under a winter storm watch. And I wouldn't be surprised if that includes us, I should say, going into these next couple of hours or the next couple of days or so, because it is something that we are watching, and it could potentially bring some significant impacts. So I'll show you what latest models are looking like going into the end of this week. Still dealing with the rain, but not too worried about it transitioning until we get to about Friday night. That's when we'll start to see this transition period. However, there has been a little bit of a change. So our European model, this is that first model I'm showing you here, actually has us staying a little bit warmer. And when I say a little bit warmer, I just mean above freezing. Where you see that blue line, that's that freezing line that's sometimes referenced. It just means where temperatures are at or below freezing, that 32-degree mark. And that has actually shifted a little further off to the north. So for us here in central Mississippi, this model has us actually staying a little bit warmer. This is Saturday afternoon, by the way. And if we stay a little bit warmer, then that actually will play in our favor, seeing less of an impact in terms of accumulations and things like that. But I will say on the back half of this system, as it continues to push off to the east, this is by around Sunday at 8 a.m. As you can tell, we would still be dealing with some of that wintry mix, including sleet and freezing rain. So regardless, I think we are still going to be dealing with ice accumulation as our main impact going into this weekend. It's just a matter of how much, which we can't really necessarily say just yet, because those high resolution models aren't in the time frame that we need them to be in to go that far out into this weekend. But at least we're seeing a little bit more of a warming trend, at least for this model. But we're going to keep an eye out to see if it's an outlier or if we're actually going to be trending a little bit warmer in our temperatures. Now, with this other model, the GFS, this does have us staying chilly and cold, below freezing, a good portion of Saturday. So this is about midnight going in from Friday into Saturday. As you can tell, that freezing line a little further off to the south, and it stays south, mainly along the Natchez Trace into the north, where that freezing rain, that sleet, a mixture will be possible. And this is through about 3 o'clock on Saturday. It just shows it keeps going. And if that's the case, we could be talking about more significant impacts, which means more ice on things like power lines, and that could cause some issues with a loss of power. So that's something that we're keeping a close eye on. It does look like it will exit out of our viewing area by around Sunday night, but we also are going to have to be concerned with refreeze potential, because temperatures look to be pretty cold going into Monday morning of next week. So I'm just showing this not to necessarily to scare you, but to show the shift in what models are showing, both of our long range models. That is, as you can tell, in areas such as Port Gibson, Jackson, Brookhaven, it has 0 in terms of ice accumulation. That's because it's playing off of those warmer temperatures where we're not dealing with as big of impacts. Now, if we say cooler, that's where we'll start to see issues. Now, I wouldn't get too bogged down on just how much we're seeing in terms of this, because it is based off the long range models. But any accumulation is going to cause hazardous conditions, especially on roadways. Now, I will say this, the snow potential not looking very likely for us here in central Mississippi, but the further north you go, that's where it could be a little bit more of a concern. But obviously, snowfall totals have been shifting left and right, just because it is still a long-range model forecast, if you will. But just to give you a little bit of a perspective, I know we kind of been talking about this, showing this the past a day or so. But anywhere along the Natchez Trace into the north, more likely to see that accumulation from sleet, ice, and dangerous road conditions. That's not to say that there couldn't be any impacts south of that, but it just looks a little bit more likely the further north you go. So I will say this, whether it's a trace or we get more than a 1/4 inch of ice, the roads are going to be hazardous. So my best advice to you is going to be just stay at home starting Friday night. Have a weekend in, maybe have a movie day, or maybe play some board games or something like that, but get all of your preparations done before Friday night, because that's when things will start to transition and the weather could potentially be going downhill. Because I will say, in the overnight hours, it does look like we are going to drop below freezing, regardless if temperatures trend a little bit warmer during the daytime. A little bit of a different story. So I will say, get all your preparations done beforehand. Make sure you've got batteries charged, because if we get a little bit more of that ice accumulation, we could be talking about the coating on power lines and then down power poles and things like that. We don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but it's best to be prepared than to not be prepared, right? So I will say this, we are eventually going to stay above freezing at some point into next week. So it doesn't look like it's going to be a very long event, but it still could bring major impacts nonetheless. So it's better to be prepared than not to be. So don't get too bogged down in the totals right now, because we are still in that long range model period. I would say as early as this evening, but definitely starting tomorrow, we will have our high resolution models in frame, or in that time frame that we're going to be watching for. And that can also help us narrow down more so that time frame, and also just talking about impacts and more on those accumulation totals. But I will show you guys this. Let me pull this up for you. Let's see here. This is one of our high resolution models. It doesn't go out, obviously, for everything we want to see, but this is just as far as it goes until, I think, about Friday going into Saturday. So still going to be talking about rain. All right. Up until about some point tomorrow. It's just going to be scattered throughout the day tomorrow. Maybe a few isolated chances going into Friday, but it looks to stay mostly dry until we start to see this transition. This is about 9 o'clock Friday night. Let's see. And this is as far out as it goes. So again, it will start to get this into the time frame we're going to be watching as the day goes on and as we get more data. But this is what it's looking like. This is about 5 o'clock on a Saturday. Of course, this is that first run. So don't solely rely on this run. Things will be changing more than likely, especially with the temperatures. It's all going to come down to, honestly, the degree or so in some places. So that's pretty much all I've got for you for the time being. I'll leave you with a look around town if you're getting ready to head out the door. Let me look at some of the comments, see if anyone has any questions. Feel free to ask questions if you have any. Good morning, Brenda. Good morning, Seth. Julie, hello. Hello, McLovely D. Clay. Yeah, so that's the latest for you guys on this winter system. Again, a lot still can change. We haven't seen like big changes, just that one model run that we've seen from the European model having us a little bit warmer, but we'll see if that's going to be the trend or if it's just an outlier model run, as we call it. So we'll of course keep you updated on our socials and obviously on air for the latest. I will say don't rush out and go panic buying or anything like that. This isn't going to be a week-long event by any means, but I would still do any preparations that you need to get done before we get to Friday night, as then it looks like the weather could be going downhill from there. So yeah, I'll leave you guys with that and have a great rest of your Wednesday.